Hi, welcome to the Cartes Crossing as we continue our exploration of the Celestine prophecy with the Experiential guide. We're up to chapter 6, or the sixth insight, clearing the past, our parental lineage and control dramas. As our character travels onward over narrowing, twisting mountain roads with Father Sanchez, he has time to ponder how he might control energy by being aloof. Speaking directly to this question, an incident with two people on the road clearly demonstrates a missed opportunity to advance on his path because of his unwillingness to reveal himself. Crestfallen, he asks his mentor what is the next step. He is told that he can discover and accelerate his life purpose by reflecting on the achievements, failures, and philosophy of his parents, but only if he stops indulging in his control drama. Appropriately, he meets Father Carl amid the ancient ruins of Machu Picchu. This priest guides our character through the process of clearing his own past. He begins to see that he has always been working on a life question that was formed in early childhood. The sixth insight. The sixth insight teaches that each of us is the next step in evolution along the lineage created by our two parents. Our higher purpose on earth can be found by recognizing what our parents accomplished and where they left off, by reconciling what they gave us with what they left for us to resolve. We can get a clear picture of who we are and what we are meant to do. Why then are we not feeling fulfilled and fully actualized? The sixth insight tells us that we interfere with our evolution by getting stuck in trying to control energy by a process called control drama. We literally stop the advancement of our destiny by using a repetitive childhood pattern of control rather than allowing synchronicity to move us forward. In general, there are two aggressive and two passive ways of controlling energy, which we learned in childhood. By identifying our specific control drama, we begin to free ourselves from this limiting behavior. Once we're aware of how we stop the flow of energy that naturally takes us to our higher purpose, we will begin to know our true selves. Back to the past. Until now, our main character has been traveling on his path metaphorically, blindfolded. He is seeking answers, but he doesn't really know what his questions are. He feels by turns restless, excited, confused, defensive, depleted, euphoric, and intrigued. He doesn't know where he's going, and he doesn't understand why he hasn't gotten there. Sound familiar? So far, he has learnt from the first insight that he keeps having coincidences that are meaningful, showing him that something mysterious is happening. From the second, he realizes that his awareness is historically significant and he wants to be part of the spiritual awakening. With the third insight, he becomes aware of the existence of the invisible energy of the universe that responds to how he thinks. From the fourth insight, he sees clearly that he and others get caught up in trying to get energy from each other and wind up feeling depleted and dissatisfied. The fifth insight emerges when he spontaneously connects to universal energy on the mountaintop. From that peak, he re-enters the mundane world and is ready to become a more active participant in the synchronistic unfolding of his destiny. At this stage of the journey, he knows that he can consciously connect to universal energy and begin instituting his new level of awareness. He is ready to define his life question so that the mysterious action of the universe can accelerate. He is ready to release his need to control. The parental review. Our character is now at the point of seeing what lineage he inherited from the lives of his two parents. He is told that his true spiritual identity will be seen if he looks at his entire life as one long story. He must look at the events of his life from birth until the present for the higher meaning of their purpose and ask, why was I born to my particular family? What was the purpose of what happened? Father Carl expresses it this way: each of us has to go back to our family experience to review what happened. Once we find this truth, it can energize our lives because the truth tells us who we are, the path we're on, and what we are doing. Setting the stage in early childhood. An example of how specific family influences give birth to evolutionary movement can be seen in the life of Nobel Prize-winning author Albert Camus. At the time of his death in an automobile accident in 1960, he was working on a novel that was largely autobiographical. Recently published, this incomplete manuscript describes Camus's early childhood as dominated by the loss of his father, who was killed in World War I. Camus grew up in an uncommunicative household with his mother and an uncle who were both illiterate and nearly deaf. Out of this silent upbringing, he gave birth to books whose themes were alienation and whose styles were starkly severe. Even the titles of his book, L'étranger, The Stranger, La Peste, The Plague, and La Chute, The Fall, suggest the perspective of the outsider. Hating any form of ideology that oppressed people, he also did not support the leftist philosophies popular with the intellectuals of his time. In his noble acceptance speech, he spoke of his raging, rebellious urge to speak out for the speechless. Camus then was able to transform his early difficult experiences into an artistic reflection of alienation for a whole society. Case history. Another example of how parental influences create fertile conditions to advance their child's destiny comes from an intuitive trainer and counselor. Penny Pierce, who shared her parental review with us. Pierce, who believes she already has a purpose when she was born, feels that she chose her particular parents because they would create the right conditions to prepare her to manifest her purpose. Both my parents left small towns and travelled all over the country. My grandfather was a minister, but my father never got into the spiritual side of life. He was brilliant and became an engineer, then a management consultant, but never got a higher degree, which he could easily have done. He was an organizer, interested in stability and structure, and a frustrated philosopher. My mother was also highly intelligent and became an architect and sculptor. She stood for the artistic life, but was a frustrated writer. Both of them had ambition and wanted to build something lasting. All the travelling I did when I was young introduced me to every kind of situation. City life, farm life, different ethnicities, and today I've become a sympathizer of cross-cultural and multidimensional worldviews. I picked up the spiritual piece that my father rejected, and now consult with people about spirituality and business. My sister went for the academic piece that neither of my parents finished, and she has a PhD. My next step is to finish writing my book on the intuitive process. Case history. One person studying the sixth insight described how he saw his two parental influences. I've done a lot of therapy around my early childhood, but this was the first time I really had compassion for my parents as people. I'd never looked at their lives before as a lesson that I could learn from, but what I saw astounded me. I can see how much I'm like them, particularly my father, whom I've also judged so harshly. I'm an accountant, and I also lead programs at night on alcoholism education. My dream is to make an educational video about drug and alcohol recovery, but I keep getting cold feet and not doing anything about it. When I looked at my dad's life, I saw that he was born with a silver spoon and had every opportunity to accomplish something he wanted to, but he came out of the service a major and died a janitor. When I was young, I remember my mum standing at the ironing board and crying. She was bright and capable, but entirely frustrated and filled with fear. I'm really clear that I cannot afford not to move ahead with my project. Seeing the frustration they had is literally too high a price to pay, and if I don't try, I'm guaranteed to fail. What I'm learning is that I can maintain my freedom and still be responsible, because being responsible feels good to me. Not because I'm doing it to please someone else. Doing this exercise really changed my judgments on my parents. Even more importantly, I'm much more excited about taking new risks than I am fearful. It goes on. Let's go out of that. Internal shifts. Each of the people in our examples underwent a shift in perspective. They were able to see their history in a different way, which allowed them to bring themselves into alignment. Their stories demonstrate that internal paradigm shifts are possible. Though such individual shifts in outlook, our cultural worldview changes accordingly. Life question. Our character is told in the novel, you are here because this is where you need to be to continue the evolution. Your whole life has been a long road leading directly to this moment. Like our character in the book, you've come to the point where you are ready to evolve consciously. Okay, stop listening for a moment and think about the statement in terms of yourself. Think back at how you came to listen to the Celestine prophecy and any other similar books on spirituality and self-development. Can you see that your whole life has led you to this moment of listening to this page? How is your study of the insights helping you to continue your life evolution? All your achievements, interests, frustrations, and stages of growth were preparing you to be here, now, exploring the insights. It's time to examine in detail your own parental influences. After you've integrated your view of their lives and how they affected you, continue the analysis of your own life that you studied and study both your parental influences and your own history should help reveal the life question that you've been working on. What are control dramas? Remember that the fourth insight tells us that human beings compete for energy. We do so in order to feel a psychological lift. We believe that we must get attention, love, recognition, support, and approval, all forms of energy from others. We adopt a way to pull the energy in our direction by the kind of interactions we had as children with our parents. One of the first steps we must take to evolve consciously is to clear away any past attitudes, fears, misinformation, and behavior for controlling the flow of energy. Early in life, we unconsciously adapt ourselves to our environment. How our parents treated us and how we felt around them was our training ground for learning how to control the energy flowing to us. In the Celestine prophecy, we are told each of us must go back into our past, back into our early family life, and see how this habit was formed. Seeing its inception keeps our way of controlling in consciousness. Remember, most of our family members were operating in a drama themselves, trying to pull energy out of us as children. This is why we had to form a control drama in the first place. We had to have a strategy to win energy back. It is always in relation to our family members that we develop our particular drama. However, once we recognize the energy dynamics in our families, we can go past these control strategies and see what was really happening. There are four main classifications of energy manipulation spoken of in the manuscript, and they operate on a continuum. Some people use more than one in different circumstances, but most of us have one dominant control drama that we tend to repeat, depending on which one worked well in the members of our early family. Control drama classifications. We have intimidator. Intimidators get everyone to pay attention to them by force of loudness, physical strength, threats, unexpected outbursts. They keep everyone on edge for fear of triggering off embarrassing comments, anger, in extreme cases, rage. Energy comes towards them because of the fear and suspicion of the next event. Intimidators always have the stage. They make you feel afraid or anxious. Basically egocentric, their behavior may range from ordering others around, talking continuously, being authoritarian, being inflexible and sarcastic, to being violent. Intimidators are probably the most cut off from universal energy. They initially engage others by creating an aura of power. Each of the four control dramas create a specific energy dynamic called a matching drama. For example, the matching drama that is created by an intimidator is primarily the poor me, extremely passive energy dynamic. The poor me, feeling that the intimidator is robbing him or her of energy on a frightening scale, tries to stop the threatening interchange by assuming a cringing, helpless attitude. Look at what you're doing to me. Don't hurt me. I'm too weak. The poor me is attempting to make the intimidator feel guilty in order to stop the attack and regain a flow of energy. The other possibility for a matching drama is the counter-intimidator. This drama will occur if the poor me attitude does not work, or more likely if the personality on the other person is also aggressive. Then this person will fight back with the original intimidator. If one of your parents was an intimidator, chances are one of his or her parents was an intimidator or a passive poor me. Interrogator. Interrogators are less physically threatening, but break down spirit and will by mentally questioning all activities and motivations. Hostile critics. They look for ways to make others wrong. The more they dwell on your faults and mistakes, the more you watch them and react to their every move. As you strive to prove yourself or answer to them, the more energy you send their way. Everything you say will probably be used against you at some time. You feel as if you're being constantly monitored. Hypervigilant. Their behavior may range from being cynical, skeptical, sarcastic, needling, perfectionistic, self-righteous to vicious manipulative. They initially engage others with their wit, infallible logic, facts, and intellect. As parents, interrogators create aloof children, and sometimes poor me. Both types want to escape the probing of the interrogator. Aloofs want to escape having to answer and be drained of their energy through the constant scrutiny and needling of the interrogator. Aloof. Aloof people are caught up in their own internal world of unresolved struggles, fears, and self-doubt. They believe unconsciously that if they appear mysterious or detached, others will come to draw them out. Often lonely, they keep their distance for fear of others imposing their will or questioning their decisions, as their interrogator parents did. Thinking they have to do everything on their own, they don't ask for help. They need a lot of space and often avoid being pinned down by commitments. As children, they were not allowed to satisfy their need for independence or acknowledged for their own identity. Prone to move towards the poor me side of a continuum, they don't realize that their own aloofness might be the cause of their not having what they want, money, love, and self-esteem, or for their feelings of stagnation or confusion. They often see their main problem as a lack of something: money, friends, social contacts, and education. Their behavior ranges from disinterested, unavailable, uncooperative to condescending. rejecting, contrary, and sneaky. Skilled at detachment is a defense. They tend to cut off their own energy with such phrases as, I'm different from others, no one really understands what I'm trying to do, I'm confused, I don't want to play their game, if only I had. Opportunities slip away while they overanalyze everything. With any hint of conflict or confrontation, the aloof becomes vague and can literally disappear. Screening telephone calls or not keeping appointments, they initially engage through their mysterious, hard-to-get persona. Aloofs usually create interrogators, but can also get into dramas with intimidators or poor me's because they are in the center of the continuum. Poor me or victim. Poor me's don't ever feel they have enough power to confront the world in an active way, so they elicit sympathy, pulling energy towards them. When using the silent treatment, they may slide towards the aloof mode, but as a poor me, they make sure that the silence does not go unnoticed. Always pessimistic, poor me's pull attention to themselves by worried facial expressions, sighing, trebling, crying, staring into the distance, answering questions slowly, and retelling poignant dramas and crisis. They like to go last in line and defer to others. Their favourite two words are yes, but. Poor me's initially seduced by their vulnerability and need for help. However, they're not really interested in solutions because they would lose their source of energy. They might also exhibit over-accommodating behaviour, which eventually leads them into feeling taken advantage of and reinforces their poor me method of gaining energy. As accommodators, they have little ability to set boundaries and limits, and behaviour ranges from convincing, defending, making excuses, repeatedly explaining, telling too much to trying to solve problems that are not their business. They open themselves to being objectified, perhaps through their beauty or sexual favours, and then resent being taken for granted. Poor me sustain their victim stance by attracting people who intimidate them. In the extreme cycles of domestic violence, an intimidator will involve the poor me in increasingly violent episodes of abuse towards the poor me until a climax is reached. After the climax, the intimidator retreats and apologizes, thus sending energy that seduces the poor me back into the cycle. Reference chart of control drama positions. Aggressive, outer behavior with the inner struggle, intimidator. So the outer behavior is denial, not listening, with anger. Not listening, and denial, not listening, with fear of being controlled. Anger, fear of not enough. Outer behavior, get it out, get it any way I can, someone else will get it first. Arrogance, no one notices me. Me first, no one cares. Control, I have to do it alone. Rage, no one ever took care of me. Violence, I'm dead. Makes others feel afraid. Matching drama for me, don't hurt me, I'm not threatening. Angry, intimidating, you can't hurt me, I'll fight back. Vengeful, interrogator, you're not as powerful as you appear to be, what's your weak point? Negated, aloof, I'll not confront you. Interrogator, who do you think you are? No acknowledgement as a child. Where are you going? People leave me and I'm afraid. Why didn't you? I want proof of your love. Why don't you? You're going to leave me. I told you so, you need me, I need you. Outer behavior, make others feel monitored. Matching drama, aloof, you don't know what I'm thinking. Negated, you're more powerful than I am, you count more than I do. The aloof. Wrong, martyr, poor me, someday you'll see my true worth. Passive, outer behavior with inner struggle. Aloof, I'm not ready to, I'm not sure I can survive, I need more money, education and time, I don't trust myself, I'm afraid, I don't know, I'm not sure, maybe, I'll be trapped and I won't be able to perform. I'll let you know, I don't know what I feel. Make others feel with matching drama. Make others feel uncertain with matching drama. Interrogator, are you mad at me? Make others feel suspicious. Interrogator, what did I do wrong? Poor me, I'm tired, I do so much and no one sees me. Outer behavior, that's just the way I am. Inner struggle, I don't know how to get energy any other way. I'm doing the best I can. If I change, you won't love me. I'm fine. You don't really care about me. Let me do it. You need me, I need you. Don't worry about me, I need recognition. Make others feel guilty. Matching drama is intimidator. You want to control me, or with the interrogator, you are so self-centered. It's often easier to see these dramas in others. For example, a woman who recently read the Celestine prophecy told us, I saw a control drama in the making yesterday when I was in a shoe store. A mother had come in looking for shoes with a 9-year-old daughter. The bored little girl asked, Mum, what colour shoes are you going to buy? Intent on searching the shoe racks, the mother did not respond to the question. In a whinier tone, again the question came, Mum, what colour shoes are you going to buy? Still the mother did not respond. The woman said to us, before knowing about control dramas, I would just have seen that as a little girl as a pest, too, being a mother myself. Yesterday I felt like telling the mother, say, did you realise your aloof manner is creating a little interrogator? Control dramas are fear-based. Each of the modes of controlling energy is rooted in the original fear that if one loses the connection to the parent, he or she will not be able to survive. When we were children, our parents were the source of our survival, and when we needed energy to feel secure, we used one of the dramas that seemed to work. With the knowledge that there is a universal source of energy available to all, we need no longer stay in our old pattern of control and survival. Transforming the fear-based drama by connecting to our inner source, we exist at a higher vibration. When brought into awareness, the control dramas may potentially change to positive attributes. One woman, as a 30-year-old single mother who currently works as a receptionist, wants more out of life. She has a dream, and her question is, how could I become financially independent enough to live anywhere? I wanted to in the country and teach others how to be self-sufficient. In doing her parental analysis, she discovered the following beliefs from both parents. Sometimes you just have to do things you don't want to. Wait to live. Plan for the tragedies. There's not enough time to do everything. Never a moment's rest. You've got a good thing here. You'd better stay. Her parents, while hard-working, good attentioned people, had no passion or joy in life. She looked at her question about becoming financially independent and living anywhere she wanted, and realized that the beliefs instilled by her parents were not going to lead her to a dream. While she realized it's important to be strategic, their lives were perfect feedback that excessive caution did not lead to a self-fulfilled life. She also realized that she was saying the same thing to herself about staying in her present job, because it was a good thing. In addition, she was putting her life on hold, wait to live, pending the receipt of a legal settlement. In a subtle way, she was reflecting those early beliefs of her parents. You might want to consider the following questions. What made your mother afraid? What behavior did she exhibit? What made your father afraid? What behavior did he exhibit? What makes you afraid? How do you act? How are you similar to your parents? Transforming control dramas. Once we become centered internally, our control dramas come into awareness, and these old habits can evolve into positive strengths. Intimidator can become a leader. When connected to the true source of power, an intimidator will find more self-esteem when he uses his leadership qualities. An assertive without being domineering, confident without being arrogant, there's more chance for enjoying challenges and gaining the cooperation of others. One 60-year-old management consultant once owned and operated a manufacturing company. Self-described as a bastard on wheels, he almost never lost an argument and relished his illusion of power and intimidation. Bankruptcy and divorce proved humbling experiences and showed him how to balance his life as had today. Today, he's an executive coach, helping people see why they make certain decisions, helping them get in touch with their true power. Knowing what his feelings are and how they can guide him with integrity is freedom from self-exposed exile. Interrogator advocate. The interrogator transformed channels the predilection for questioning into research, using more well-rounded interpersonal skills as a teacher, counselor, or advocate. Aloof independent thinker. Freed from the need to remain an outsider, aloof to access deep inner intuitive resources to bring wisdom and creativity to their life work, such as being a priest, healer, or artist. Poor me into a reformer. Having experienced true nurturing and unity, the poor me is able to stay grounded in his or her own inner source and becomes a compassionate reformer, social worker, or healer. Analyzing control dramas. One of the most asked questions from readers is, how do I get out of my control drama? What can I do? Become conscious of your behavior. The first step in stopping your pattern is to become very clear about the control drama you learned as a child. Review the descriptions above and begin to notice your behavior, especially when you're under stress or anxious about something. Do you get belligerent, impatient, rigid, angry, intimidate or dominate others? Then you're an intimidator. Are you suspicious of others or feel they're not paying enough attention? Do you needle, remonstrate, or interrogate them? You're the interrogator. Do you keep your distance and play hard to get, avoiding situations where you must reveal yourself for fear of being judged? You're aloof. Are you always complaining and focusing on problems, hoping that others will come to your rescue? For me. Become conscious of what types you attract. Stop matching their dramas. Notice the nature of your everyday interactions and be willing to disengage from the game. For example, are you having a lot of encounters with intimidators? If so, you're probably feeling out of control or disempowered. You might be trying to get energy from them by being an intimidator yourself because of a belief in scarcity, which leads to a perceived need for competition. Or if you're feeling like a victim of their actions, your reaction might be to try to justify your powerlessness rather than take responsibility for your own life. If you're being intimidated, recognize where you need to get in touch with your own feelings of anger or injustice. How do you need to take action in your own life? Watch for defensive statements which are a clue that you've moved into a poor me stance to get some energy from the other. Are many poor me's lining up to tell you a sob story? Perhaps you've started taking more responsibility for yourself, and this is a reminder not to fall back into blaming others. Perhaps you're feeling uncertain, depressed, or afraid yourself, but are not in touch with the source of your feelings. In that case, you've projected out your own poor me feelings. The advice you give to a poor me friend might be something you need to hear yourself. Do you have a major interrogator in your life? Perhaps you're hiding feelings and not telling the whole truth about something. Ask yourself how you're withdrawing energy from this other person. Do you want him or her to notice something about you that you don't want to say directly? Do you feel inadequate but are trying to appear on top of things? How have you lost your connection to the universal source? Is someone being aloof with you? Hard to reach, distant, or mysterious? Do you find yourself wanting constant contact and wondering about their every thought, move, or motive? Perhaps you are doing to him what one of his parents did, interrogating and monitoring him. He may be being mysterious in order to keep from feeling engulfed or having to perform. Remember, your reactions are rooted in childhood insecurities. Get in touch with your body. For example, notice if you freeze up under criticism or questioning. Rigidity, coldness, and fear sensations confirm that you are in competition for energy and you've lost your center. Naming the drama. In the Celestine prophecy, Julia tells the main character that all dramas are covert strategies to get energy. Covert manipulations for energy can't exist if you bring them into consciousness by pointing them out. The best truth about what's going on in a conversation always prevails. After that, the person has to be more real and honest. Naming the drama brings the truth of the encounter out into the open. Naming the drama does not necessarily mean that you mentally analyze your encounter and you're able to articulate that this is an interrogator and you're going into aloof mode or any other psychological explanations. Naming the drama means that you're able to notice that a power struggle is in progress and that you're feeling overwhelmed, stuck, browbeaten, powerless, or any number of feelings. Naming it means staying in the truth of your feelings and taking steps to disengage. Notice when you find yourself trying to convince someone, defending yourself, feeling threatened or feeling guilty because someone is making you responsible for their problems. When you feel stuck, frozen, and confused during a power struggle, the very process of becoming aware allows you to make a choice about continuing it or transforming it. Remember that naming the drama might not be very easy to accomplish if emotions are running high or there is a lot of fear. The point is to get to the truth out in the open. Always project love and understanding toward the other person and trust yourself to know when to speak. Try different approaches. With intimidators, why are you so angry? You seem to want to make me afraid of you. With interrogators, I like you, but when I'm with you, I feel criticized. Is there something else that's bothering you besides this issue? With aloofs, I feel like you're withdrawing and being distant. How are you feeling? With poor me's, feels like you're making me responsible for what's wrong in your life. You may not mean to, but it feels like you're trying to make me feel guilty. Don't be afraid to sound awkward in the beginning. You are changing a lifelong pattern, and you might not be too smooth at first in managing this energy. Often the overt issues that people find are not the real issues. Look for the truth behind the obvious. Look beyond the drama to the real person. Stay centered in your own energy and remember to send the other person as much energy as you can. As we know from the first insight, each person we encounter has a message for us, and we for them. If we're stuck in a no-win cycle for energy, we miss the message. Therefore, after naming the drama, we might see the person without preconceived judgments and give them energy voluntarily so that they, in turn, are able to receive and give it to us. Listen for clues that people present about what is really going on with them. For example, in the heat of an argument, one intimidator shouted, I've had it with these people. I'm tired of being pushed around. I've been pushed around ever since I was a kid. This helped the other person, who was fast going into a poor me reaction, to realize the issues were not about her, but something deeper and older. In further conversation, she was able to speak more candidly and compassionately with the other person. In this case, because she knew him fairly well, she was able to draw some parallels about the power of early childhood influences in both their lives. Reflections in your mirror. Once you have time to reflect on a control drama that you're involved in, look at yourself and the other person as objectively as you can. How is the other person like one of your parents? How are you reacting as you did in early childhood? It might be helpful to write about the encounter in your journal and spend a few minutes writing down your feelings. Allow the situation to teach you and avoid making judgments about what's happening. Usually what bothers us about others is something we need to look at in ourselves, but are we unwilling to do? Finger pointing is a sign that we're trying to use blame instead of understanding. For example, an organizational development consultant said, I was frustrated with an executive who kept accusing certain employees of being stupid. Instead of seeing how this whole situation had developed out of lack of communication, then I realized that I was doing the same thing with one of my own colleagues, calling him names in my mind and not looking at deeper issues. Finger pointing does not name the truth, so as a result, nothing ever gets resolved. Everybody loses energy. Ask yourself these questions. What is the control drama showing me that I most need to know right now? Do I need to set better limits in the beginning of encounters? Do I take events personally when they're not really about me? Do I try to press an advantage when I see weaknesses in others? Be willing to walk away when you see you're hooked. For example, poor me's will become hooked into their drama with an intimidator or interrogator by continually trying to re-explain, convince, or defend. You do this, notice how much time you spend obsessing on how you can finally once and for all convince this person of something. As you release your need to gain energy by your old methods, you'll be able to walk away from the temptation to keep convincing. Intimidators get hooked on the adrenaline rush of overpowering and winning. If you do this, ask yourself, what do I most want? Do I need to get it only this way? Be willing to stay flexible and open. Stop trying to control everything. Perhaps cooperation would bring even more benefits than how you now perceive the solution. Interrogators get hooked by their illusion of self-righteousness. If you do this, be willing to look at the situation from the other point of view. What might you learn from doing this? Be willing to talk about your real feelings and do something to gain energy for yourself, rather than chasing someone who is withdrawing. Aloofs get hooked by wanting to cover up fears, self-doubts, and confusion. If you do this, be willing to ask for help. Admit that you don't have quite everything together. What support do you need right now? What are you feeling? Be willing to walk towards something. Walking away is the easy way out for you. What our dramas can teach us. Parental relationships are mirrored in other relationships. Every situation has a message. Body gives us clues. Telling the truth and not dying. Asking for help and taking a broader view. Life, progress, not perfection. Life is a journey, not an end result, and it's important to accept ourselves and others the way we are. We might not like others or approve of their behavior, but life is about experience and bringing ourselves into love and unity. Blaming, judging, and comparing ourselves to others, progress or stage of enlightenment is not helpful. As you work with releasing your control drama, keep it in perspective and keep your sense of humor. Whenever you can, remember to bring yourself into a peaceful oneness. Be easy on yourself. As you work on becoming more aware of controlled dramas, please realize that this information is a tool for transformation, not a weapon to use in enlightening others or frustrating yourself. Be easy on yourself as you begin to change your behavior. Remember that it's always easier to see these dramas in others when you feel angry, self-righteous, shut down, depressed, or isolated. You've allowed yourself to look for solutions and energy in old ways. When you can truthfully feel that your heart is open and you're peaceful with whatever is happening in your life, then you're connected to your own energy. When in doubt, breathe. Look for the humor in what's happening and do something to get your energy higher. Summary of the sixth insight. The sixth insight is the awareness of when we lose our inner connection with divine energy. Often we find that as these times we are resorting to our personal and unconscious way of manipulating others out of their energy. These manipulations are generally either passive or aggressive. Most passive can be called the victim or the poor me approach, always framing events as negative, looking to others for help, describing events in such a way as to make others feel guilty, and so to force them to give attention and energy. Less passive is the distancing or aloof strategy, giving vague answers to questions, never committing to anything, making others pursue in order to understand us. When others are pursuing, trying to figure us out, we gain their attention and thus their energy. More aggressive than these two is the critic or interrogator method, seeking to find something wrong with what others are doing, always monitoring. We catch them in what we consider an error, we make them self-conscious, overly cautious, worried about what we might think. They watch us out of the corner of their eye and thus give us attention and energy. Most aggressive is the intimidator style, appearing out of control, explosive, dangerous, and belligerent. Others watch us closely and thus we receive their energy. Because we tend to repeat these manipulations with everyone we meet and to structure life events around these devices, they can be understood as control dramas, repeated patterns that seem to bring on the same life situations over and over. Once we bring our control dramas into consciousness, however, we begin to catch ourselves every time we revert to them, and so we can stay more connected with inner energy. An analyst of our early childhood can reveal how we control dramas evolve, but once this is forgiven, we can see deeper reasons why we were placed with our early family. From our parents' strengths and from particular growth issues that they didn't complete, we can derive our life question and our work or mission in the world. Okay, that's it for us for today. Don't forget to check the links down below. Check the links on my channel. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you know when the next video will be uploaded. Take care and blessed be.